Folks, we're here today with Bobby Phillips, and we're so fortunate. Bobby was up in New Brunswick judging a field trial, and he's able to stop by the house, and we've for a long time wanted to talk to him. Bobby, welcome to Dogs Afield.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
You bet. Well, thank you for taking time to stop in and say hello. You know, you've had a great career in the outdoors and bird dogs and field trialing. Most of us start out hunting. Is that how you got interested in bird dogs?
I have a great recollection of the first quail that I ever killed in the fall of 1951, a long time ago, 65 years ago, over an old setter dog that had pointed on a small terrace that was heavily vegetated, and I remember the quail coming up, and there's a whole covey of quail, and I killed my first quail. I killed it with a with a gun that my cousin had given me. It was a Model 12 Winchester with a 20-inch cylinder bore barrel. The gun had been used to guard German prisoners during World War II.
Oh my goodness.
And he didn't hunt at all, and he knew that I lived in the country, grew up in a small little country, it wasn't even a town, it was just a wide place in the road. And he gave it to me, and I killed that first flying quail with that, and I remember it distinctly.
And that kind of set the standard there for you. You decided, boy, I like this sport. Yeah.
I was lucky. My dad's mother's brother, my great uncle, was a full-time quail hunter at that time, and he was in his 60s at that time, 70s, I guess. And so I had a little bit in my family. He always had dogs, and my dad would take me up there, and I would drag around behind them with my little pop gun, you know. And when I was really young, this was before that, and before when I killed my first quail. And so I got started like that, and then I was lucky enough to have a friend in the community that we bought milk from that bird hunted, quail hunted. That's all we had in West Tennessee at that time were quail. And he allowed me to go with him a lot, and I just fell in love with it. It's
Good.
just that simple. I fell in love with it.
Wonderful. Very good. Now, when did you own your first dog, your own dog?
Well, I did not own a dog when I was in high school. Don't ask me why I didn't, mainly because I guess my friends that are my older friends that I hunted with all had dogs, and they offered to give me a puppy, and I don't know, I didn't have a puppy. But the first dog I got when I was in graduate school at the University of Tennessee. I decided I was going to get me a dog, and I was living in a house at that time, and so I got me a little female puppy from a good friend of mine that had bred a female. Probably the toughest animal I ever saw in my life. I mean, she had bottom, and she was a wonderful bird dog. And so I got a puppy out of her, named her Wendy, and I kept her for 12 years.
Is that a pointer?
Yes, she was an English pointer, and she was out of a dog called Warhoop Jake II. That John O'Neill lived in Knoxville at the time. He was a very prominent, he and his father were very prominent amateur field trialers, horseback field trialers. Both of them are in the Hall of Fame now. And the Warhoop Jake II dog was owned by John, and that's the daddy of the puppy that I got.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first dog. She was a nice little dog. She was a nice little dog.
Well, and how long after that did you get into field trialing?
That was in the late 60s. I went to work with what was at that time was the chemicals division of Eastman Kodak Company in Kingsport, Tennessee. And a guy by the name of Jack Carter who had recently retired from the military. He was a major in the military. Started some local field trials around Kingsport, Tennessee. And I got, because of my hunting experiences, and people knew that I hunted and that kind of thing, and had bird dogs at that time, they invited me to come to the field trials, which I did. And this was in the spring of 1972. In the spring of 1972, I ran a puppy in the, we had 2 puppy stakes. We had what we call a junior puppy for really young puppies, less than 9 months old, and then we had the true amateur puppy stake. And I won the junior puppy with a pup out of Riggins White Knight, and I got second in the amateur puppy that of a puppy that I bought from Herb Holmes, and I don't remember. Fast Eddie was the daddy of that puppy, real nice puppy. So that was my first introduction to field trials, and I over the years I got interested in just competing in the gun dog, what we call gun dog stakes. Mm-hmm. These were stakes where the dog was not required to be steady to wing and shot. You just needed to be steady to the flush. And I got interested in that because there were a lot of hunters at that time in East Tennessee, quite different today, but there were lots of hunters. And we had gun dog stakes that had 25 to 35 dogs in it. And you had to have a good dog to win. If you run in a stake got 30 dogs in it, you better have a pretty good dog. Sure. So over, I'm going to say a year period of time, from 70 to around 90, that was my main interest. I was not interested in the wing and shot piece. Early 90s, I started getting interested in what people call the true shooting dog, I've always thought that was funny. The shooting dogs, you've got a gun dog, but I have a shooting dog. And so I got interested in saying, well, I think I can train a shooting dog too. Well, I was a very amateur at trying to put that refinement on a dog. And so I had a steep learning curve to try to get to the point where I thought I was halfway competent to train a dog, and I've been learning ever since. This is a game that if you ever think you know it all, you're in bad shape, It's because it's what you learn after you know it all that really counts. That's what Harry Truman said one time, I think, and I kind of like that statement. And the same way with bird dogs. I'm learning something in training with every dog I try to train. They're different, and you learn something. Well, that's interesting, And how do I work on that? So in the early '90s, I started getting serious about that, and I was lucky enough around the 1998 to get the first of 3 females from a particular breeding that Steve Thomas in Oklahoma he was doing the mating at that time. A dog named Elhue Seahorse, and the female was a dog named Osage Evolution, and she was out of Miller's Chief, one of Farrell Miller's great early dogs. And those 3 females that I got out of that particular breeding, 3 different litters, they raised my dog level up. They were just better dogs. And so with good raw material, it took real skill to foul them up. And and so I did my best to work through that, and luckily those 3 dogs and the puppies that I've had from them since, every dog out there on my string that's outside your house now, it has that breeding in them.
It's all about genetics, isn't it?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. Now, and not to knock any of the good gun dogs that I had over the years, because I had dogs out of Regan's White Knight. I had dogs out of Whippoorwill's Rebel. You know, both national champions. Whippoorwill's Rebel, a double national champion. My little Molly dog out of him, she was a really nice gun dog, just really, really nice gun dog. But these dogs, those dogs, for whatever reason, genetics, as you say, it raised my level up, and I've been able to compete pretty successfully, you know, since I got those dogs.
Now you've done all your own training, right? You haven't used another.
One time. Well, there's one exception to that. I had two more dogs than I thought I could do myself well, and so I sent two dogs to Buddy Smith for his puppy program.
Okay. Yeah.
And this was about the year 2000, and he put those two dogs through his puppy program, and that's the only time I have ever sent any dogs to be trained. Not that there was anything wrong with what Buddy did, but because he did a great job with both of those dogs, and it was obvious that he worked them hard, and I went down and he worked them, you know, with me and that type of thing. And I learned some things from, you know, Buddy. Of course, heck, anybody could learn something from Buddy, you know, and Buddy's a well-known, you know, Hall of Fame guy, and very, very knowledgeable about bird dogs.
Well, I think he had started a lot of great dogs with his puppy program. Yeah, sure.
I was down there one of the times that I went down there, and he took me down to Cedar Oak Plantation, where Cedar Oak Kate was at the time, and you know he had some early influence on Cedar Oak Kate. And I'll never forget, he turned her out of the pen, Tom Honecker, and we were standing there talking, and he turned her out of the pen, and he picked up a little rock, just a small little rock, and threw it up in the yard. And she went up there and found that little old bitty rock and brought it back to him. And he just laughed. He thought that was so funny. I did too. My eyes were big, you know.
Oh, Bobby, in a year's time, how many field trials would you normally do?
Oh, I get antsy, and usually at the end of August or 1st of September or so, and I'm most every weekend from there to the 1st of April.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll run in 5 or 6 championships a year and several weekend trials and some classics. And I'm going to try to do a little bit of horsebacking this year, which I've done very little of in the past. I've always walked. I have kind of a bucket list left. I want to turn a dog loose at Hoffman on a horse. Hoffman near Pinehurst, the famous grounds there. I want to turn a dog loose at Sedgefields Plantation and on a horse, just to say I've done that. That's on my bucket list. And the third one has been taken care of by NBHA this year at Ames. They are having the National Open NBHA Championship at Ames Plantation starting March the 1st, 2017.
Right after the
National. And it will be a walking stake. And, you know, I hope I'm able to be there. I sure do plan on it.
How many placements have you had in your career?
I couldn't tell you exactly. My wife tells me I have had too many because every box in the basement's full of trophies. And what are you going to do with all these things? And I've got the main big ones, you know, in a special location. But I would say somewhere 300 or so.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Something on that order.
Wow, great accomplishment. Now, Bobby, how do you evaluate a dog? Do you have any type of a system you use to evaluate a field trial dog? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, you know, to back up just a little, I had gun dogs over the years and had some great dogs, and fortunately, I was able to hunt with some dogs that I thought were better than mine. My old hunting buddy, Buck Worley, is not in good health right now. He and his dad had some really great dogs, and so I learned a little bit about bird finding. Well, I had some good dogs too, but they were better. I think he had a couple of dogs that were better than mine. And I learned to watch these dogs and learn how they found birds and that kind of thing. And then I come to field trials. And I got to thinking about this a few years ago, and I started keeping data on it. And I have reached a conclusion that a good dog is a dog that finishes the trial or the stake that you're in half of the time or more. That's a good dog. And of the times that it finishes, if it places half of the time that it finishes, that is a good dog. Now, if you add those two together, you get a number that if it's greater than 100, you've probably got a great dog. And so that's kind of how I assess my dogs. I keep data on every trial, and I annualize it. All of the dogs that I've run for the last 15, 20 years, I've got data of that type on them. And so that's how I kind of assess how my dogs are doing.
That's great. I'm always searching for formulas like that, and I'm not a field trialer. I'm an avid bird dog person, but not a field trialer. So it's interesting that you've been able to come up with a system like that, and I'm always trying to apply something like that to my dogs too. But you know, Bobby, it's been great for you to stop in and take time out of your busy day and chat with us, and I've learned a lot, and I really appreciate your time. And I would say to you, good luck in all your future field trial endeavors, and have a safe journey home.
Thank you, Paul.
All right.
I've had a great time in talking with you.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
Bird Dogs Afield, presented by Native Performance Dog Food, and brought to you in part by RST Shot Shells, Mud River Dog Products, Peach Shoe Dryer, Wooden Stream Outdoor Footwear, Canine Active, and Merkel Shotguns.